изображение туринской плащаницы. Вот. Я могу, в принципе, сюда поставить, просто там более удобно. Я не знаю, насколько у нас, правда, в камере.
We've just seen the Shroud of Turin. And today we have a masterclass presentation, Systemic Constellations, Spiritual Psychotherapy or Therapy of a Spirit, Bible and Gospel in Constellational Work. I want to say that my first education is mathematics, and my second should be called theologist, but when I was a student of Alexander Roman and Georgy Chistikov, there was no theological institution. It was all prohibited and later half prohibited. So I don't have any diploma, but I was frequently invited to different Christian conferences and they called me a theologue. But I had these wonderful teachers, so they called me a theologue. It was pretty interesting when they invited me. But all those people who created new universities, they knew my teachers, but they couldn't do it before. But now, yeah, there are a lot of institutions now. Well, I think it's not good that we all study Christianity at school, but because we have other religions, and it's different from previous times when everything was prohibited. Now it's only Christianity. And I have a question. Who have seen my previous masterclass? Oh, some have seen it last year. Okay. Well, I'll be brief, just to remind you what happened last year. Well, our main mistake is that we perceive all the written text as ultimate truth. But you need to understand that 70% of the information in the Bible is not really correct because it was written so many times during different times and translated. So you need to read it not and perceive it not literally, but to understand the spirit. And now many things they conceal the real truth from us of this same text. So you need to get the spirit of it. So don't just focus on the letters. We've seen a few things last time. For example, the Isaac and what he did, and also we've seen the phrase, how blessed will be the one who seizes and dashes little ones against the rock. So we try to understand this text from the point of view of the modern person. Well, if you want to see it, you can go to our website and check it out there. There are a lot of videos in free materials. You don't have to sign up or anything, you just can go to the video section on the website. Today we'll try to talk about similar things. The things that I promised, I'll try to do it briefly, okay? First of all, the act of creation. From chaos into cosmos. And do you remember how many times there was a creation? So we have just 3 times. Everything else is just evolution. So 3 times is from chaos into space. The second time is when life is created. And third time is, do you remember? And there is a different verb, create. And third is the creation of a man. Only 3 times. So only 3 times our creator is involved directly in the process. And then there is the concept of sin. Who knows what sin is? In the masterclass, I'd like you to interact with me too. So what's the sin? A mistake? Okay.
Ошибка — это правильно. Перевод слова — не попадание в цель.
Do you know the translation of the
Вот
word?
если мы в этом ракурсе смотрим, то все совершенно
The translation is when you miss the target.
попадание в цель. Вот метили.
So when we look at it from this point of view, it looks differently.
А чё
So when you try to reach a goal
учитывая предыдущее, что
over there,
говорили, почему он не попадает?
but you get there,
Почему он вот метит?
so
Говорит,
you
я
miss
хочу
the
как
goal.
по Божьей воле.
And why we miss the goals?
Травма, то, что я говорила,
So why we want to go there, but we miss it? Traumas.
вечером было
Yes,
заседание
traumas.
комитета модальностей, и вот несколько психотерапевтов, вот я просто в этом выступила, и все
2 days ago,
говорят,
have a committee of modalities conference, like round table. Everyone agreed that traumas stands between us and God. So we missed the target, and that's the sin. Because we wanted to go there, and there is a mistake. So I wanted to explain some basic concepts so you can understand the further conversation. And my colleagues laugh at me because as a mathematician, I was trying to solve the equation during the constellation. And there was no apple, there was just fruit. So it wasn't exactly the apple, and there is a little discussion going on about if it was a fruit or mature fruit or something else. And then why death entered life? It's because to protect a person, a human being, from living in sin forever. So in constellations we can solve different problems that we couldn't solve before. And I have a hope that if we solve these mistakes and problems, then we will hit the target and people will live longer and happier. So do you think that the first sin was caused by the first trauma? Well, you need to think about it. You can think about it. It's an interesting question. But when you solve traumas, normally a person is going towards God. It's not just to go to the church and pray for some reason.
Дух стоит вот ровно на 180. Люди ко мне куча верующих приходят. На 180 градусов смерть смотрит.
So if we look at the constellation and we have a spirit, it is turned on 180 degrees from the spirit. And people try to make idols from icons and trying to focus on rituals instead of being in true faith and meeting the God. I was taught that when you pray, you talk to God directly. It's not about the ritual. And there is a lot of discussion about different other aspects in the Bible. There is also different discussion going on between the facts in Old Testament and New Testament. And a lot of things maybe was added to the Old Testament to make it different and sound different, and like kids were killed and so on. So what was the sin of Adam? What do you think? What was his sin? The first that comes to your mind? I'd like to know the right answer. Well, there is no right answer. But, well, we can think about it together. What do you think? He shouldn't have listened to his wife? You? I think he followed his desires. Well, is it bad? Well, it depends on the desire. So what was the sin then? He wanted to be equal to God? Well, it wasn't really about being equal to God. He took something that was prohibited. And he was doubtful. Well, we are all doubtful as people, human beings. But is it prohibited to take something? Because God prohibited it? Well, you know the tree that it was taken from? The tree of knowledge? And why it was prohibited? Maybe because he was supposed to know everything himself. Or maybe the head of a human being is not supposed to get all the knowledge possible. Well, I've read a lot of different books that interpreted it differently. And there was a specific book, Rantim, that I really like. It is a book of 1930-something, and it looks like all the modern books were written from it. But really, we were taught that the sin of Adam is irresponsibility. So he made Eve responsible. Well, just saying. So he made her responsible. And who else? Do you remember the phrase? The wife that you gave me, so he made also God responsible. That's why he was punished. So, so there was also a different discussion going on between me in Bible and then me of Jesus in New Testament. But in it was lost in translation because there was different I. So I'm yours meant that he gives himself to God, to people. So you understand, okay? And before, God was tied to a place. So when people changed place, they served the specific God. But it was first in history for Israeli people that they had God with them. Now, I also want to say, my first teacher, Marilyn Gray, my first ecology teacher, I really like her and I'm really grateful for one thing. She said, she was teaching about rings of responsibility and influence. So what's our first ring of responsibility? Who are the closest people to us? Me and God. Us, like God and us. If you don't believe in God, then it's something like of a higher creation. So the second circle? Relatives? Okay, for Russian-speaking person, it's really hard. In Muslim culture, they replied right. They know it right. Who should be closer to person? Husband or children? Yeah, husband. Yeah, so in the second circle, there should be husband and children who live with parents. Small children. But in Russian reality, it's a little bit different. So for Russian women, usually kids are closer. But it shouldn't be this way, because if you have husband, you can make more children. Like a job, lost everything, but he had his wife, so they made more children. Okay, third circle are like ex-wife, ex-husband, and grown-up children that don't live with you, our parents, and so on and so on. And so when someone who you don't know says something bad to you, like in a subway, then you get all fired up in emotion. But you shouldn't do this, because like you take someone from circle number 100 and then you take it to the closest circle and treat them like someone close to you. But you shouldn't react this way. Also, you shouldn't mess mercy and, well, humility and submission. So you shouldn't mess humility and submission. They are different things. Who is publican? So he's a tax collector, and he was dealing with the pagans. So pagans, they're like dirty people. Who is like, why a good Samaritan gave help, but the priest just passed by? Why did it happen? But in the West, people know. You think that Orthodox Church is the best, but in Catholic Church, they know the Bible, they know the text. Well, we have the potential, but here you need to know the text. Well, Levit and priest, they went to serve the God, but the guy laying there, he could have been dead or dirty or pagan or something else, so they couldn't touch them, otherwise they also would get dirty and they couldn't serve. But serving the God is more important. It's very important for their lives. But Good Samaritan helped. So Jesus Christ, he showed the way, and he made a revolution in everything of his time. So ritual purity was very important. So all the publicans, they were not clean. So everyone dealing with them, they should later get cleaned and everything. What Christ said, he said, well, do you remember the story when mayor of Moscow went to climb the tree to saw the Pope? That was a pretty funny story. So, and that guy he wanted to see Christ, and everyone laughed at him. Everyone hated them. But then Christ said, I will come and dine with you tonight. And he was like, me? Why? Because that was a teacher. And it was, well, such an important person. How can he come? Because he will become dirty and it will take him hours to clean. And he said this, and he raised up his dignity. And Christ never made people guilty. So humility and serving the church shouldn't be with the should anyway be connected to guilt. But then, what's penance? Penance is a turn. So it has nothing to do with guilt. So when the church says that you need to ask for forgiveness and you need to ask, and do you exercises and ask for forgiveness, but it shouldn't be guilt. You shouldn't feel guilty. Because if you feel guilty, you won't do anything good.
Я не знаю, как насчет вот эту секцию обсуждали религиозно-ориентированной психотерапии, но духовно-ориентированная психотерапия не должна иметь ничего общего с теми, кто говорит чувство вины под видом покаяния.
So if we talk about spiritual psychotherapy, you shouldn't ever talk about guilt and make people guilty, because being with God means being free. So, like, my story is that when I came to first Systemic Constellation, I was impressed because it was like a model of everything I was taught at the Christian university. And everything that Catholic people taught me too. I also met an impressive guy who saved works of Solzhenitsyn under threat of death, of course. Well, amazing people. Well, let's go further. I also want to say one thing, that people may hate me for doing it. So if we talk about Satan, when we get baptized, what do we say? We say no to Satan. But in psychology we know that if we deny something, we have it. But if we think of a world as if of a one God system, then who does Satan serves? Obviously, I shouldn't even say it, because if we had Satan as a separate being, we would have a dualism, but we have a one God concept. And when in psychotherapy we say that we have temptation, and then temptation leads to personal growth, so when we have hard times, when we have hard conditions, but we grow from it, we need them. And Satan serves God. And then he makes us turn from bad and evil to God, to good things. And then miracles happen. Sometimes I work with the incest. And how do I teach my clients to be thankful for that? They say, thank you, my grandmother and grandfather, that you had it, because if you didn't have it, I wouldn't have been here. I wouldn't have even been born, because then that grandfather would get some other girl and I wouldn't be here. So sometimes people make them guilty for that, but and they say, like, I don't want to have been born. But in reality, you need to think about it. You need to keep it real and be thankful for if that things happened in your life. So we also need to be aware that we need to be present all the time. You need to have my mind turned on. You shouldn't switch it off. So we need to have everything in a system, a spirit, and mind, and body and emotions. So we were taught also, if you remember, that 3 months before conceiving, the spirit chooses the body. So if there is a person that's born to the incest couple, then we can tell that he chose his destiny this way. And if you think that incest is a rare thing, it's not. Because I was really amazed how many people come to me with incest. Well, earlier they didn't talk about it. Like if man had problems, like before in previous times, if man had problems with wife and there is a very little village, there was a very little choice. And even now, when we have big choice, well, quite a lot of bad things happen in our families. There are quite a lot of incests even now. But when a client says, with the mind, and I tell them to say thank you for being born, for my grandfather meeting my grandmother and doing it, because otherwise you wouldn't have been here. And when they say thank you, they start to feel it, and they understand, and later they work it out. And when I do constellations, a lot of people, they don't have any effect after, because they need some support to have effect after that. And sometimes in constellation, a person solves the problem and they get new resources from that, emotional resources and so on. But then when they meet the reality, it's really hard to stay stable. So we give them this support, so they would keep and stick to their decisions and their feelings of being thankful, and then again miracles happen. And a lot of different diseases can be dealt with. I can't say that they are treated completely, like they have 100% health, but a lot of very interesting things happen with the autoimmune diseases, and we have like real life examples of people getting better. But we go back to our topic. So actually we have few topics to talk about today, so I want to test some of my ideas. If you have ideas, just let me know. So, like in previous masterclass, we were talking about this phrase, how blessed will be the one who seizes in the ashes the little bounce against the rock. So we had to understand, and we understood that it was about something that we don't think about. But today I want to talk about something else. So if we talk about forgiveness, in constellations we have 3 laws. We need to include everyone, even like bad people. The second law is hierarchy. The first person that came into the system is higher. And third law is receiving. When parents, they only give, and children, they only receive, because they cannot give back. They can just give, they can just their life and transfer it further. And when we receive, we go higher. And when we forgive someone,
Да я обращаю, то я с позиции света говорю, понимаете, я прощаю, то есть я выше, да, это понятно, да? И вот, понимаете,
so when I forgive someone, I go higher. Well, and for me personally, as a Christian person, it's interesting to understand what Christ says, forgiven, you shall be forgiven. So I had a situation in my life where I had to do what Bert Hellinger said. If you receive evil, you give it back, but a little bit less. And when I did it first time with my husband, I felt a lot better. So then I understood in reality. So I think a lot of people, like me and many other people, I think we're not really ready for Christian forgiveness. And if you remember situations when there was a same person and he was threatened and like he felt aggression and he said thank you and forgive me for irritating you, so you had to feel this, I'm very sorry. And that's Christian forgiveness, which leads us to a mental level. So when I see someone who tries to upset me, I try to see the intent behind it. When I was working with Alexander Mann, I asked him, how can you talk to these weird people who don't like you, who are maybe a raper, a killer, but you still talk to them? How can you do this? And his brother also asked him, but he said that when I see a person, I see a little baby inside him, and he's innocent, so I talk to that person. So when you forgive, when you receive some evil, but then you just forget it. So, because when you're like, I forgive you, it's like you're going hard and there is no balance. So do you think that we're not ready for the New Testament? Well, yeah. Well, there are some people that are ready, but if you're not ready, then if you receive evil and you want to give it back, just give it back, but do it in a little bit less.
То, что вот прямо я читала в порядках любви, совершенно четко, причем на немецком языке, в том числе, если тебе сделали зло, да, немножко меньше. Если ты хочешь разрыва отношений, ты должен прийти к полному балансу. Вот когда у тебя полный баланс...
I've read in the book that, in his book, that if you receive evil, you can give it back, but you do less of it, because if you give the same amount, then you can destroy the relationship. If we talk about love, we do it differently. So if you receive love, you give more love, and then the relationship grows. And you need to have balance, but, well, not static balance, but dynamic balance. Another topic that I'm interested in is relationship between men and women. If you remember the Bible and the part about husband and wife, what is it about? So I would like to talk about that part too. And I'm also interested in homosexuality, if it's right or not.